My birthday is August 2nd. When I researched, I found out that lots of interesting things happened that day. The Declaration of Independence was signed on my birthday in 1776. 56 delegates signed an enlarged copy. They signed from north to south, with the delegate from New Hampshire signing first and the delegate from Georgia signing last. Some people were absent. Patriots George Washington and Patrick Henry were not there to sign. First Lincoln head pennies were minted on my birthday in 1909. It was the first time that a person was shown on a U.S. coin. However, Lincoln was such a popular figure in American history that it seemed an easy choice to make him the first person on a U.S. coin. It was President Teddy Roosevelt who thought that U.S. coins were boring. He wanted them to stand out among international currencies. Adolf Hitler became the Führer of Germany on my birthday in 1934. He established the Third Reich and completely dismantled any idea of German democracy. He said the Third Reich would last for 1,000 years, but it fell only 11 years later. Hitler left Germany in terrible condition. It was even divided into parts by the Allies after the Second World War. During Hitler's rule, he had millions killed. He exterminated over 6 million Jews and 250,000 gypsies during the Holocaust. His regime murdered an unknown number of Slavs, political dissidents, disabled persons, homosexuals, and others deemed unacceptable by the Nazi regime. The war Hitler unleashed upon Europe took even more lives. Close to 20 million people were killed in the USSR alone. Adolf Hitler is reviled as one of history's greatest villains. Famous scientist Albert Einstein wrote a letter to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1939, urging him to begin a program to develop an atomic bomb. World War II had begun, and Einstein was afraid that the Germans were already developing a bomb. He didn't want Germany to be the only country that had the atomic bomb. What is interesting is that Germany never used their bomb, but we did, when we dropped 2 on Japan in 1945. It ended the war with Japan. The bombs killed more than 200,000 Japanese people and caused massive destruction. On my birthday in 1943, future President John F. Kennedy was serving as a commander of a torpedo boat in the Solomon Islands when his ship was fired upon by the Japanese Navy. Their boat was rammed by a Japanese destroyer and caught fire. Several of Kennedy's shipmates were blown overboard into a sea of boiling oil. Kennedy dove in to rescue 3 of the crew and in the process swallowed some of the toxic mixture. For 12 hours, Kennedy and his crew clung to the wrecked hull before he ordered them to abandon ship. Kennedy and the other good swimmers placed the injured on a makeshift raft and then took turns pushing and towing the raft 4 miles to safety on a nearby island. At about 2 a.m. local time on my birthday in 1990, Iraqi forces invaded Kuwait, Iraq's tiny oil-rich neighbor. Kuwait's defense forces were rapidly overwhelmed, and those that were not destroyed retreated to Saudi Arabia. By annexing Kuwait, Iraq gained control of 20% of the world's oil reserves, and for the first time, a substantial coastline on the Persian Gulf. This action started the Persian Gulf War and Operation Desert Storm. 148 American soldiers were killed and 457 wounded. The other Allied nations suffered about 100 deaths combined during Operation Desert Storm. There are no official records for the number of Iraqi casualties, but it is believed that at least 25,000 soldiers were killed and more than 75,000 were wounded, making it one of the most one-sided military conflicts in history. It's estimated that 100,000 Iraqi civilians died from wounds or from lack of adequate water, food, and medical supplies, directly attributed to the Persian Gulf War. Filmmaker Wes Craven was born on my birthday in 1939. He's best known for his work on horror films and slasher films. His highest-grossing films are the Scream series, which earned $608 million worldwide. His most famous character is Freddy Krueger. Actor Butch Patrick was born on my birthday in 1953. He was an actor on The Munsters. That was one of my favorite television shows when I was a kid. He also made appearances on other television shows I liked, like The Monkees, Gunsmoke, and I Dream of Jeannie. Wild Bill Hickok was murdered on my birthday in 1876. He was one of the greatest gunfighters of the American West before he was murdered in Deadwood, South Dakota. Hickok was only 39 years old when he died. The most famous gunfighter in the history of the West died with his Smith & Wesson revolver in his holster, never having seen his murderer. According to legend, Hickok held a pair of black aces and black eights when he died, a combination that has since been known as the dead man's hand. Alexander Graham Bell died on my birthday in 1922. He was a famous scientist, inventor, engineer, and innovator who is credited with inventing the first practical telephone. Bell's father, grandfather, and brother had all been associated with work on elocution and speech, and both his mother and wife were deaf, profoundly influencing Bell's life work. His research on hearing and speech led him to experiment with hearing devices, which eventually culminated in Bell being awarded the first U.S. patent for the telephone in 1876. In retrospect, Bell considered his most famous invention an intrusion on his real work as a scientist and refused to have a telephone in his study. Many other inventions marked Bell's later life, including groundbreaking work in optical telecommunications, hydrofoils, and aeronautics. In 1888, Bell became one of the founding members of the National Geographic Society. Here are the sources I used when I did my research on my birthday. Hope you learned something.